Welcome, everyone. So glad you're here. I'm Pastor Deborah. Welcome to our sanctuary. And on behalf of our church, we want to welcome each and every individual who represents a house of faith here in Nuffield. This is an amazing day. In my memory, I have not seen such a diverse and auspicious group. And I mean that in the very best way. We hope that you will find welcome here in our midst. There are tours of our beloved meeting house after this worship service. And there's a lot of food, I'm told. So I hope you haven't eaten lunch. We'll be brief, right, brethren and sisters? They each have a sermon. Oh my God. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Would you please stand? We come from east and west, north and south, as one extended community.
We come with grateful hearts to worship the one God who loves us all.
We come with thanksgiving for God's leading in the past.
We come with joyful expectation as we look to the future.
May we open our hearts to God, to the God of all creation and of all peoples.
And open our hearts to one another as we minister in the name of the one who was and is and shall forever be.
Let us pray.
Gracious and merciful God, we have come from many congregations to worship you together. We give thanks for the many ways you have led people of this area to establish congregations for worship and service. We are inspired by their faith and courage as they have created new ways of service and obedience. Strengthen our trust in you and our love for one another, that people of faith may continue to bring hope and healing to people who need your light and your love. Amen.
You may be seated.
Our synagogue is probably one of the newer kids on the block. We only go back 25 years. It is still an honor and a privilege to be here today. Hine ma tov manai shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov manai shevet achim gam yachad. How very good and pleasant it is when God's people live together in unity. It is like the precious oil on the head, running down upon the beard, on the beard of Aaron, running down over the collar of his robes. It is like the dew of Hermon, which falls on the mountains of Zion. For there the Lord did ordain his blessing, life evermore. Deborah asked if I would offer a blessing. And the blessing I'm about to offer is one that doesn't go back 25 years. It doesn't go back 300 years. It goes back over 3,000 years. It's a blessing that has been offered by the leaders of our people since time immemorial. May God bless you and watch over you. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha bikunecha. May God's countenance shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'aseh lecha shalom. May God's countenance be lifted up before you, illuminating a path that extends back hundreds of years, thousands of years, back to the beginnings of time, illuminating a path to a future where all of us, where we can bask in your glory, O God, a future of wholeness, a future of completeness and fullness, a fullness of oneness, a fullness of peace, a future of shalom. Can you hear that? So may this be God's will.
Could we reverently join together in the responsive prayer printed in your program? Spirit of the living God, as we gather in this place, allow your Spirit to fill our very being.
As we worship today, we remember our brothers and sisters who worship elsewhere in our communities and throughout the world. Inspire each of us to work more faithfully for justice and dignity of life everywhere.
Raise our vision above the barriers of color, culture, and creed that separate us. Give us wisdom as we deal with one another. Help us to recognize and to respect different ways rather than to judge.
Teach us that your love has no boundaries, that all people are precious in your eyes.
Help us to find new ways to work together, reaching out our hands with help and opening our hearts in love.
Awaken in us the desire to seek your way to serve you in the world. Amen.
I would just like to add a few words, congratulatory words, to Dr. Deborah for bringing us all together in this way. I have been a hospice chaplain in Derry and Londonderry since 2002, and no one has been able to do this yet. So, job well done. Job well done. So I say with all my colleagues, good afternoon and welcome to all of you on this historical and deeply significant 300th anniversary of this congregation and of this community. As an active citizen and as a hospice chaplain, I, with you, have marveled at the accomplishments of our community and this church over the last 300 years. And quite honestly, I am just filled with anticipation about the next 300 years. Our lives constantly embrace our histories, and our lives constantly bring into fulfillment our futures, do they not? We are always sealing our yesterdays, but inaugurating our tomorrows. This church and this community have a rich tradition of being in service to all of our citizens, regardless of whether they are found in the voting booth or in a church pew or anywhere in between. As a hospice chaplain throughout Nutfield and Environs since 2002, I know very well that this church and this congregation have consistently and eagerly responded to the needs of hospice patients throughout the community, and also responded to the needs of our citizenry without asking, quote, are you members of this church? But only seeking to minister to the members of our shared community. In these 17 years, I have been periodically phoning 434-0628. You all know where that is, right here. And I must say that the responses have been honest, have been heartfelt, have been visionary, have been authentic. Your greatness will not remain idled in the past, but will serve as a springboard for your accomplishments in the future. We all look forward to sharing this destiny. Amen.
Oh, give thanks to the Lord, for for He's good. For God's steadfast love endures forever. Oh, give thanks to God of gods. Give thanks to the Lord of lords, who alone does great wonders. For God's steadfast love endures forever. Who by understanding made the heavens, who spread out the earth on the waters, who made the great lights, the sun to rule over the day, the moon and stars to rule over the night. For God's steadfast love endures forever. It is He who remembered us in our low estate, who rescued us from our foes, who gives food to all flesh, who gives thanks to the God of heaven. For God's steadfast love endures forever. This is a beautiful building, and the renovation is wonderful. But that is not what I am here, or what we are here to honor today. We are here to honor your steadfast love. For in that way, you make God present. 300 years through feast and famine, through war and peace, through difficulties and dysfunction and conflict and peace. But you have received God's steadfast love. You pass on. You have my admiration and my respect, and may this church endure forever.
A Thanksgiving litany. God, eternal and righteous one, who created the heavens and the earth, we gather today to give you thanks.
For bread that fills us with your life, for love that softens our hearts, for beauty revealed at every turn.
O redeeming and forgiving one, who is always faithful and merciful, we gather to give you thanks.
For your constant presence over 300 years, for challenging us to faithfulness and to service, for all the ways you have called us to be your people,
For the wonder of your indwelling presence, for the comfort of your compassion and loving kindness, for drawing us together as peoples of faith.
with your help we are made whole, because of your love we are refreshed and renewed. Through your abiding presence we are one community. We gather to give you thanks.
So grateful to be here today, and we had an opportunity to say just one more little thing that we didn't put in our program. Well, I wanted to point out that Alan Shepherd's family was an interfaith family. That Renza Shepherd, his mother, was a soloist in our church for about 18 years, and I don't know how many years. His father was the organist here at First Parish. And I'm just so pleased to share with his interfaith family and with all of you today.
Oh, give thanks to the Lord, call on God's name, make known God's deeds among the peoples. Sing to God, sing praises to God. Tell of all God's wonderful works. Glory in God's holy name. Let the hearts of those who seek the Lord rejoice. Seek the Lord and God's strength. Seek God's presence continually. Remember the wonderful works God has done, His miracles, and the judgments God has uttered.
1718, a group of Scotch Presbyterians who had resettled in Northern Ireland began planning to move to the New World. These Protestants were never quite accepted in the Irish Catholic people, and they suffered under the siege of Londonderry. They sought a place where they could live in peace, where they could raise their children to a better life, where they could worship as they believed. As they undertook this challenging voyage to a new, unsettled land, I thought of God's call to Abraham to leave everything and go to a new land. In Genesis 12 we read, "Now the Lord said to Abram, go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing." So Abram went, as the Lord had told him. And then in the book of Hebrews we read, "By faith Abraham obeyed when he was called to set out, not knowing where he was going." Those who first settled this area set out and did not know where they were going to find a place. However, with their strong faith, they believed that God would lead them and be with them. When they were led to Nutfield, they divided into long, narrow plots that bordered on West Running Brook, which provided water, wood for building, and land to farm, and yet kept the houses close together for protection. The church was allotted a plot near the middle of the community for the pastor, the church, and eventually the cemetery. The first church building was built in 1722. It was the first wood frame building in the community. They were still living in log cabin kind of things. The current sanctuary, the meeting house, was built in 1769, but it was considerably smaller than it is today. When they needed more room, well, they cut the building in half and they pulled it apart. They left the box pews on the edges and put some straight and narrow pews in the middle. They did not waste a thing. Later, when they needed to expand again, well, they made it into 2 stories. They had the town offices, the vestry on the ground floor, and they put the spacious audience room on the upper floor. These were strong, creative, faith-driven people who established the church even before there was a civil government. They courageously set out, not knowing where they were going, but by faith and courage, they built a community that has grown and is still vital 300 years later.
A reading from the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verses 18 to 19. God said, "Do not remember the former things, or consider the things of old. I am about to do a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness, and rivers in the desert. The wild animals will honor me, the jackals and the ostrich, for I give water in the wilderness, rivers in the desert, to give drink to my chosen people, the people whom I formed for myself, so that they might declare my praise." Again, in behalf of St. Luke's United Methodist Church, thank you for the gracious invitation that I can represent the church and participate in this interfaith ecumenical service of gratitude. Like what is mentioned in our bulletin, St. Luke started 1885 when Reverend William Ramsden of First Methodist Episcopal Church in Derry began holding services Sunday afternoon. And it was in the year 1887, Valentine's Day, God is love, right? God is love, Valentine's Day. The new society was formally organized and named St. Luke's. And in 3 days, April 17, 2000, 2019, we are celebrating the dedication of House of Worship because it was first dedicated April 17, 1899. For God is good all the time. All the time? God is good.
Psalm 46, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth should change, though the mountains shake into the heart of the sea, though its waters roar and foam, though the mountains tremble with its tumult.